Well, first of all, the point that we're addressing here about the problem, I agree. Yes, paper money, fiat money is a huge problem, and intrinsically it has no value. The value of that piece of paper that Anthony is holding on to comes predominantly from faith. When we had real money, you didn't have to have faith because you had gold. You had a real commodity, and everybody knew its value because everybody knew what you can do with gold. But fiat currency, people just believe it has value, but it also gets value from the fact that governments declare it as legal tender, and governments require the payment of taxes in that currency. There is a natural demand. Nobody wants to go to jail, so everybody needs dollars in order to pay their taxes. And so that's where the value comes from. The problem with Bitcoin, and one of the many problems, is its value comes from the same thing. It's confidence. You have to believe that it has value. You have to believe that other people are going to want it. Maybe you have to believe in this network. But at the end of the day, its value is derived from confidence and belief, except you don't even have the government behind it to force you to pay taxes in it. So I think it's much easier for that faith and that confidence to be lost. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. There's now over 11,000 other ones that exist. I mean, who's to say that Bitcoin won't be passé, that some of these other coins will become more popular and people will forget about Bitcoin? I mean, generally, the first mover is not always the last mover. Somebody invents or builds a bigger mousetrap.
But would that not be a challenge for you, Peter? Because that would simply show that someone or a group behind it were better at it than Bitcoin. It wouldn't disprove the argument, would it? It would simply say, well, these virtual currencies are working.
Well, no, because I think the fact that you can always come up with another one destroys the argument that there's scarcity there. I mean, you're not going to come up with a better gold. Gold is gold. But I can keep inventing these cryptocurrencies. There's no limit to the supply of cryptocurrencies. And I don't know that necessarily if you can assign a value to the network, if that value inures to the individual, Satoshis that everybody owns. And, I know that, yeah, we're going digital. A lot of things now are digital, but that doesn't mean that everything is digital. I don't live in a digital house. I don't eat digital food. I don't drive a digital car, and I'm not going to have digital money because money is a commodity. It is a real thing. It cannot just be replicated digitally. If you want to have a store of value, if you want real money, then you need something like gold. If you believe in fiat money, well, then you can have fiat cryptocurrencies. But the problem is, again, you're playing a confidence game only without the government supports and all the other infrastructure, the price structures, the insurance products, the bond markets, all the things that people use fiat currencies for today. They don't use Bitcoin for any of that other than just trading.
I had that view that you're sharing with me, that the Prime Minister of Estonia or the President of Estonia had. If you were talking to me in 2017 or 2018, I would have had this higher level of skepticism. When I left the White House, people forget that I was also at the XM Bank, and I spent several weeks at the XM Bank examining the XM Bank as its chief strategy officer, making a recommendation to the administration whether or not we should keep the XM Bank. And at that time, they were talking about the digitization of the dollar and the threat of a digital yuan. And when I was fired from the White House and went back to my business, it's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur. After you're fired, you go back to your own business, big deal. I bought the URL skybridgebitcoin.com because it became very clear that the fiat currencies were going to start digitizing. So what I would say to the Estonian government is I understand your concern, but there's been exponential growth in the network. The network has moved from 30 million users at that time to 125 million users, on its way to 180 by year end. And so as more and more users join the network, the fait accompli of the network will be such that it'll be impossible not to have it as a part of our lives. And what I would say to Peter about gold, I respect gold and I understand gold's cultural and historical tenets, but software is eating the world. Every book behind me right now, I can digest that book into this smartphone. And then I have room for my photos and everything else. And I think what Mr. Nakamoto or Mrs. Nakamoto, the group known as Nakamoto, suggested is if we've got money, and this is where Peter and I would intellectually disagree, gold is just another representation of value. It is a ledger. The human beings for 5,500 years are trying to come up with a ledger between each other so that they can exchange goods and services without bartering. Gold is just another representation of that. So all Nakamoto is saying is this meets the three tenets. It's scarce, it can be networked, and I can transfer it to you in an impregnable way. We don't have to like or trust each other, but I can create that one-on-one experience without having to go through a third party. One last quick point.
Yeah, quick one back to Peter and then to the audience, because we've got some great questions. You'll have to keep going for those.
If we capture a meteor, very valuable one, that's got $2 quadrillion worth of gold, it's going to super disrupt that market. Bitcoin can't be disrupted. It can't be recreated.
Peter, very quick last comeback there. You can volley or serve at the net, and then we'll go to the audience.
Well, first of all, gold is not a representation of anything. Gold is itself. It is a metal, right? It is a commodity. And prior to it being money, it was bartered for other commodities. I mean, I could have some gold and you could have some wheat, and we could exchange one commodity for another, one value for another. So when gold became money, gold became accepted in exchange for any other commodity, but it was a commodity itself. Bitcoin does not possess that property. Bitcoin is not an actual good. So, when you talk about digital books or digital music, these things can be digitized. This is intangible. I can read a book on paper because what I'm reading are the words. And so you can transfer those words to me digitally or on a piece of paper. The same thing with music. I can listen to an album that's playing on, a phonograph, or I could listen to, an iPod or whatever. It's the music which is digital. But other commodities like gold is a physical element. It is a metal, and it can't be replaced with a digital representation because I can't make this watch out of digital gold. I can't conduct electricity with digital gold. You have to understand the difference. When you are putting your faith in Bitcoin, there's nothing real. The price can implode at any minute. You are dependent on more and more people deciding to adopt it. Why? Because they're confident that they're going to get rich. And all they have to do is hold on to it and never sell it, and it will go up, and one day they're going to be rich. Well, eventually the supply of fools runs out and the bottom drops out of the market.